Hello, all, and welcome to the first installment of Inside the Box with Adam Bach. I, of course, am Adam Bach. This is a podcast that I am just starting. Previously, I have been doing a blog format of the ITB, but now I want to try and transition more towards the podcast side. So, in a sense, this will kind of be a companion podcast with the blog. With this one, I'm not starting with the first blog. I'm starting with number 4, which is the sports movie fantasy draft. And that's really just a fancy way of me saying, hey, I'm doing a top 10 list with sports movies. Just a quick kind of explanation. Obviously, I'm doing it as a fantasy draft, so I did it a little bit differently in the blog. Like, if you go back and read the blog, or if you've already read the blog, this is going to make a heck of a lot more sense to you. Basically, in the blog, I kind of just welcome the readers to the first annual sports movie fantasy draft. And then it's a top 10 list. And what I say is that I'm doing the draft from the weakest to the best. But any sports fan obviously knows that you don't draft that way, because if you do, you're going to be really bad. And then bear with me if you hear weird background noises. I'm in my family room in northern Indiana, where it is freezing, so you will randomly at times hear whooshing, because it is kind of windy. There's a loose window in the bathroom, so it rattles. So if you hear like a noise, that it's probably the bathroom window. And then obviously you might hear the heat turn on and off throughout this. So just bear with me. This is by no means a fancy setup. It's just one guy with a microphone that he bought off of Amazon.com, and just likes doing stuff. I started out as a communication major and then switched to sport management. I have a little bit of background with radio. In high school, I took a radio broadcasting class and actually had my own show. And then I actually did play-by-play and color commentary for some local sporting events, mostly basketball, which is tough for me. Basketball is not one of my top sports, so it was just something I had to get used to. I did 1 or 2 baseball games, and then actually did a track and field event, which was interesting. I didn't know really how that was going to work, but it was pretty fun. So now, we're just going to kind of get into this, into the sports movie fantasy draft. So like I said, we're going to go 10-1, because it's just a fancy name for a top 10 list. And then I know there's a lot of talk with sports movies is like, is that really a sports movie? Because, yeah, they might play one baseball game or something, but really it doesn't focus on the sports. I sort of put that into perspective when I was looking at it, but I didn't put too much weight on it, because in some cases it's not, yes, it's a sports film, but the focus on is the essence of the game or the meaning of the game. It's not necessarily just playing the sport. So with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so with the 10th round pick, I select The Sandlot from 1993. Sandlot is a carefree baseball movie that follows Scotty Smalls as he adapts to moving to a new town, and he struggles to make friends, and then the all-star kind of kid amongst the group, Benny, feels bad for him, kind of starts, helping him out. They become really good friends, and through that he meets the rest of the ragtag crew. This is it's a really fun movie. I like this one. It's pretty funny. It's got some really good performances. A lot of these kids didn't go on to do anything else. Like I know the kid who played Benny went on and did Mighty Ducks 2 and 3. He was Luis, the guy who couldn't stop. And then he gave up acting, and the kid that played Ham did Big Green, which was another sports movie. It was a soccer movie. It wasn't great, but his character was pretty funny. He was the goalie, and he'd get scared when the ball was coming towards him, and he'd imagine the other team as like whatever their mascot was. So if they were playing the Knights, it was just a bunch of like kids dressed up in night costumes. It was pretty interesting. I think Scotty Smalls was the only one that did any type of really big movie after The Sandlot. He was in Mystic River. But I believe that's his biggest credit. Some of the adults, though, obviously had much bigger careers. Karen Allen, who plays Scotty Smalls' mom, she, of course, is from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then Dennis Leary plays his stepdad, and he, of course, is from Rescue Me. Recently, he did, Amazing Spider-Man. And then, of course, James Earl Jones as Mr. Myrtle. James Earl Jones, voice of Mufasa, voice of Darth Vader. Just a big, booming voice. And he has a fantastic character in this movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, this movie's from 1993, so I'm going to spoil it anyway. Basically, the dog that is like stealing the balls over the fence where the kids play The Sandlot. They tell all these stories how this dog has killed people and is this big monster, and so basically they run out of balls. They run out of baseballs. Ham hits a home run, and of course, this is back when kids aren't making a ton of money, so they all had to go in to buy, baseballs. And so Ham hits a home run. That's the only ball they had for the day, and then Scotty's like, oh, I've got a baseball that we can use. Turns out it's his stepdad's autographed Babe Ruth baseball. Of course, Smalls has nowhere near the knowledge of baseball that the other group does. So he gives him the ball, and Benny, does his like, cool, I'm Benny, the all-star of this team. It's your ball, so you get to go and bat. So then Smalls actually hits a home run, and then instant terror comes over his face as he realizes he just hit his stepdad's baseball over the fence, and now it is presumably gone to the monster. All the other kids are super excited because he hit a home run, and then he finally tells them about the ball, and they're like, oh, what's so special about it? And he's like, oh, it was my stepdad's, and it was signed by Baby Ruth. And then they all freak out because they realize he means Babe Ruth, and they instantly all freak out, and they hash all these like crazy plans to try and get the ball from the other side of the fence without getting attacked by the dog. Maybe the best part is the fact that one of the kids says, oh, why don't we just go knock on his door? It might have been Smalls. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was Smalls who said, why don't we just go knock on the door? And I'm losing his name right now. I know that I have several friends who are going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you forgot a character's name. But I Squints. It was Squints. Okay, Squints is the like smart kid. He's like, oh no, he's going to be mean and won't like do anything. So Squints puts the kibosh on just going and knocking on the door, and instead plans like all these crazy plans to to get the ball back. None of them work. Finally, Benny has a dream where Babe Ruth comes and gives him these words of encouragement. He goes and buys these fancy shoes that look like an off-brand of Chuck Taylor's, and he runs, or he like jumps over the fence, gets the ball, but then the beast comes out, starts chasing him. He jumps back over the fence. The chain that the dog has breaks, and it jumps over the fence, it jumps over the fence, and this big chase incurs, and by the end, the dog gets pinned under the fence because of, I think it hit it when it jumped over the fence, and so it falls on the dog. Smalls is like, oh god, come on guys, we have to help it, and so they all, or no, not all of them, it was just Benny, who just ran a ridiculous amount from a dog, which is physically impossible. His nickname in the movie is Benny the Jet Rodriguez. His name is Benny Rodriguez, obviously. His nickname is the Jet. But the guy who just runs for 15 minutes of the movie is the only other one who helps Smalls lift the fence off the dog. And so the dog then, of course, now loves Smalls. And then they find all these baseballs that have been lost over the years, and then they go up and knock on the door to Mr. Myrtle's house because they're like, oh, your fence is broken. Turns out Mr. Myrtle is James Earl Jones. He's blind, and he's a super nice dude. And when they kind of give him the ball and say that, it was hit over the fence, he's like, why didn't you just come and knock on the door? I would have gotten it for you. And then, of course, they're all like, squints, you idiot. But turns out he knew Babe Ruth. He was a former professional baseball player, and he became blind by getting hit in the face with a baseball when he was batting. So like I said, awesome movie. It's really funny. When they all go to the amusement park and have chewing tobacco and then throw up is a really funny scene. It's just a fun movie. Carefree, love of the game type of movie. But that's my number 10 pick. Alright, number 9. The 9th round pick, I would select Draft Day from 2014. Draft Day is my first of 3 Kevin Costner sports movies. Draft Day, this one kind of falls into what I was talking about earlier about movies that don't necessarily have a sporting event happening. It's just a different aspect of the game. Like I said, I'm a sport management major. Draft Day follows Kevin Costner, who plays Sonny Weaver Jr., the general manager of the Cleveland Browns. And it follows him 13 hours before the start of the NFL draft. So it's a sports movie because he is a general manager and he's doing his job. He's making decisions on who he's going to draft. He makes a trade with the Seattle Seahawks for the first overall pick. And instantly kind of receives fire for it because he traded away 3 first-round picks and a couple of second-round picks. But, there's a believed to be franchise quarterback by the name of Bo Callahan that a lot of people want him to draft now that he has the first pick. And, there's a couple other players in the movie. I can't remember his name, but there's a linebacker played by Bozeman Chadwick, I believe is his name, and he was the guy who plays Jackie Robinson in the movie 42, and he's going to be the Black Panther in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is pretty exciting. But he plays a linebacker who Sonny really likes, and once is considering to take him. And then there's another running back, actually played by current NFL running back Arian Foster, whose dad, played by Terry Crews, played for the Cleveland Browns, so of course they want him. There's a lot of people that want them to take him, including the Browns' new head coach, played by Dennis Leary. The movie, it can be boring at times. For me, it wasn't too boring because this is stuff I studied in school. This is stuff that I would actually kind of like to do as a career. So for me, it wasn't as boring. I mean, there is some stuff, and like there's a relationship in there. Kevin Costner and Jennifer Garner, they work together. They're not married, and they don't really kind of say it, but there's a relationship there. And as the movie progresses, you do find out that there's more there. So the movie, and another kind of weird aspect to the movie is that Kevin Costner's dad in the movie, Sonny Weaver Sr., is the longtime head coach of the Browns. And Sonny fired his dad. And everyone's kind of like, oh, he did, like, why did he fire his dad? His dad was this amazing coach for the Browns. And there's a lot of stuff where it's like their relationship was strained, but at the end you do find out that Kevin Costner fired his father because his mom asked him to for health reasons, and then he did end up dying shortly thereafter. So the movie is really fun, for me at least. Being a sport management major, it is very fun. You get to learn a lot of the behind the scenes thing. You get to see how stressful the last 13 hours before a draft is, because everyone's trying to either A, find out who you're taking, B, push you to take somebody else, or C, just complain about what you're thinking the entire time. And so the last 15 to 20 minutes of the movie is super exciting. It's very good. It's, the first round pick kind of comes up, and then there's, do we make a pick or do we trade out of it? And basically Sonny weaves this kind of web of like, I'm just better than you, and turns the draft into this awesome circus with like really intense moments, and it's very good. This one I'm not going to spoil because it is a more recent movie, and the last 15 to 20 minutes is the best part of the movie. So I would definitely suggest checking out Draft Day. It's Costner in a sports movie, and he always does very good in those, as you will see on my list, because there's more coming up. And yeah, that's number 9, Draft Day. All right, and with number 8, with the 8th round pick, I select Bull Durham from 1988. Like I said, plenty of Kevin Costner on this list, and this is the second one with him in it. Bull Durham. Bull Durham is an interesting movie. Interesting in many ways. It's a baseball movie for those of you who don't know. It stars Kevin Costner, Tim Robbins, and Susan Sarandon. Susan Sarandon actually is kind of the narrator to this film. She plays Annie. She is a huge fan of the Durham Bulls, and basically she has an affair with a different player from the team every season. Yeah, I know, kind of weird and out there right off the bat. Like, that's pretty much, like, she pretty much says that right off the bat at the beginning of the movie, like a voiceover. So, you're kind of intrigued just from that point on, because it is a very odd concept. So what happens is Tim Robbins, is the, like, new young pitcher for the team. He's this prospect. He's really dumb, though. Like, really dumb. And so he's kind of working towards. It's hard to explain. Okay, I'll just go ahead with Kevin Costner comes to the team, and he's a veteran catcher. Like, he's near the end of his career. And they bring him in to kind of groom Tim Robbins into a future pro, like a future big leaguer. And so Susan Sarandon kind of has this short moment of Tim Robbins or Kevin Costner. She kind of chooses Tim Robbins at the beginning. As the movie goes on, the relationships build. Near the end, it's kind of... I've seen it once, and it's one of those things. From what I perceived, it seems like Susan Sarandon realizes she can't have an affair with a player a season anymore because she's getting older. So I think kind of near the way I perceived it near the end is that she chooses Kevin Costner, who's also pretty much done with baseball. Because what happens at the end is Tim Robbins gets called up to the pros, and Kevin Costner, who is literally like 2 hits away from like having the most hits in minor league baseball history, gets cut by the team because Tim Robbins got called up, so they don't need him anymore. So they're both kind of at this stage in their life where it's like, well, maybe we should try this. At least that's what I perceived. So yeah, number 8's Bull Durham. I don't really have a lot to talk about on this one. I mean, it was a very enjoyable movie. It was funny. It has been a little bit longer since I've seen that one than the previous 2, which is why I went more in depth with the previous 2. But I still think it's a stronger movie than both of those. And with the 7th round pick, I select Field of Dreams from 1989. Once again, Kevin Costner, so 3 in a row. This is one that I know a lot of people are thinking, Field of Dreams at number 7, that should be in like your top 3. And I understand that, but this one, when you look back at it, there's so little sports in it. Especially when Kevin Costner's doing the stuff with his family. And then the very early parts with James Earl Jones. Obviously, he's a farmer in Iowa, and he's out in the field and he hears the "If you build it, they will come," or he will come. Sorry, and you think, oh, okay, he's gotta build something, and he doesn't know what it is. He has a dream that he has to build a baseball field, so he wipes out a bunch of his crop and builds a baseball field, perceivably for no reason. He's just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this because this is weird enough that I'm gonna follow it. And to his surprise, Shoeless Joe Jackson, played by Ray Liotta, walks out of the cornfield and is on the baseball field. And so they just start playing catch and a little BP and all that stuff. Batting practice, for those of you who aren't up on baseball terminology. They have their batting practice and everything, and then Ray Liotta, as Shoeless Joe, asks, there's a lot of other guys, this is great, do you think we could, just come and keep playing? And Kevin Costner's like, sure. And, which then follows with one of the, kind of big quotes from the movie when Shoeless Joe asks Ray Kinsella, which is Kevin Costner's character, is this heaven? And he says, no, it's Iowa. So it's one of the bigger quotes in the movie, in my opinion. But basically, throughout this movie, essentially the 8 players from the Chicago Black Sox scandal are the main guys that come back and play. Um, as time goes in the movie, more players come, so that they can start actually playing games instead of just having practices. And throughout all of this, Ray gets like more cryptic messages and stuff, as to him having to do other things, which leads to him finding James Earl Jones, in the movie, who plays author Terrence Mann. And basically he has to... Terrence Mann is a very weird character in this movie, but he used to love baseball a lot, and now he hates it. And Kevin Costner, like, goes and takes him to a baseball game, and then, like, gets another cryptic message, and then you find out that James Earl Jones sees the cryptic message too, and now they have to go somewhere else and find this other guy. And it's very odd. It's weird. It's... The way I see the movie is there's two different stories in it. There's the Kevin Costner, Ray Kinsella story, where he's not only trying to regain his love and passion for the game that he started to hate because his father played and, wanted him to play the game, but it's also him kind of it's essentially making up for his father, and I'll touch back on that in a minute. And then on the other half is the Terrence Mann, James Earl Jones story, and it's him regaining his love for baseball. And, like, his speech is amazing. I obviously don't have it written down because I'm not that prepared. But it's, like, it literally starts off with him, like, baseball, and, like, it always gets made fun of. It's pretty funny just to go baseball, like, obviously I don't have the pipes that James Earl Jones has, but it is, I say it gets made fun of, but the rest of the speech along with that is phenomenal. It's a really fantastic speech. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm sure if you went on YouTube and typed in James Earl Jones Field of Dreams speech, it would pop up. But it's a phenomenal speech, and through all of it, he regains his love of the game, and he gets invited to go into the cornfield at the end by the other players, which this, of course, upsets Ray. He's like, hey man, I built the field, I did all of this for you guys, and pretty much Shoeless Joe just goes, well, you're not invited. So, but he kind of gets, and this is what I said I'd revisit, like, I'd come back to, what kind of Ray, Kevin Costner gets at the end is another chance to spend time with his father, because it's revealed that the catcher who's been playing turns out to be his dad. And the movie ends with the two of them playing catch. And it's one of those things, it's like, it hits you because it is an amazing moment. You find out, like, he did all of this stuff to get another chance with his father. So it is a very cool movie. Not a whole lot of baseball. It's more of the spirit of baseball, which is why I have it in the back half of the top 10. But still a very good movie and a must-see. Alright, and number 6. The 6th round, I select Friday Night Lights from 2004. This is not the TV show, this is the movie that had Billy Bob Thornton as the head coach. I'm not going to talk about this one a whole lot. Basically, this movie is based off of a book that is also called Friday Night Lights. The author is H.G. Bissinger. And it follows the high school really is Permian High School in Odessa, Texas. They're kind of a powerhouse. uh, in high school football in Texas. They've had NFL players. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head is Roy Williams, who's a wide receiver. He played for the Detroit Lions for quite a while. But the story is interesting. Billy Bob Thornton is Gary Gaines, the head coach. Even though you have Billy Bob Thornton, I feel like it almost follows the seniors of the team more than it follows him. It's just it follows these seniors who, some of them are going to have a future beyond that season, some of them aren't. Like there's one of the guys on the defense is really smart, and I'm pretty sure they say he's going to one of the Ivy League schools, like he's already been accepted. So they're like, oh, your future's there, but a couple of the other guys don't know what they're going to do afterwards. And then they've got their all-star running back, who's getting all these offers from these different schools, but he's not really focused on his education. And then he gets hurt in the first game of the season, and he's pretty much done. And then, he has this battle throughout the movie of, all I know is football, what am I going to do now? So, it's a ton of football in this movie, like a ton, and it's very good action. They end up making it to the state final. So good action in this movie. They did it. I'm pretty sure the same guy that did all the football choreography with Remember the Titans did it for this movie. He pretty much does all football movies. But yeah, it's a really good one. Comes in at number 6. Billy Bob Thornton does a really good job as the coach. A little fun fact is that the wife in the movie also plays the coach's wife in the TV show. Actress's name is Connie Britton. She, of course, did American Horror Story season 1, and I believe she's on that show Nashville now. And then one of the boosters is also also did the TV show. So 2 people from the movie did the TV show, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's a fun movie. Kind of looks at high school seniors that are all trying to figure out what they're going to do after high school. So it's a really good movie. I enjoyed it, and it's my number 6. Number 5, the 5th round, I select The Mighty Ducks from 1992. This movie got watched quite a bit by me. I did find it really hard and strange, because I feel like I watched the second one more. The second one is the one where they have like the Junior Olympics and they play like Team Iceland, and there's a lot more players and stuff. But looking back at it, this one is the one that started it. It's much better in certain ways. There are things about the second one I like more, but this one is it's kind of like The Sandlot, but almost in a more fun way. And I guess it's also got kind of more story to it than The Sandlot, because in this one there's not just the kid's story. There's also the story of the coach, who of course is played by Emilio Estevez, the character Gordon Bombay. He's a high-profile lawyer who, after he gets in trouble for drunk driving, gets sentenced to community service, where he has to coach a Little League hockey team. This team is awful. They're going by D5, which stands for District 5. So their team name is their district. They have no unified uniforms. They don't have a mascot. They don't have essentially anything other than skates and hockey sticks, and that's questionable as well. The team is just a bunch of goofballs. obviously when he's out there for the first time, he sees one kid who actually has some promise, and that, of course, is Charlie Conway, played by Joshua Jackson. And then, Gordon Bombay, of course, played hockey. He was a youth hockey player as well, and he played for like the really good team, which was the Hawks. And there's this flashback of him missing a championship-winning shot that hits the bar or the post, and he's devastated. And the coach is like, "You lost this one for us, Gordon." He's a dick. So the coach, oh my gosh, he's awful. So Gordon, doesn't really want to do this, but it's community service. He has to. He starts coaching these kids, starts to actually really like these kids, starts really showing them fundamentals, gets his law firm to donate money to get them actual uniforms. They become the Ducks because the head lawyer at the firm, his boss, is Mr. Ducksworth. So they become the Ducks for Mr. Ducksworth, which is kind of a funny origin to the whole thing. Everyone knows the white and purple with the cool goalie mask duck logo, but this is the old school one. This is almost lime. It's a Kelly green. It's like a Kelly green jersey with yellow on it and a bluish purple on it, and the duck is very cartoon looking, and it's very cool to see those jerseys, because it looks more like something a group of those kids would wear. When they do get to the second movie, and the second movie is very odd because they don't break out the purple and white ones until the very last game of the movie. For the rest of the movie, they're wearing the Team USA colors, which when you go back and watch that, you kind of forget about. You're like, oh man, they really didn't wear those uniforms until the last game. And it wasn't even the whole last game, it was the final period of the last game. But, the Mighty Ducks is really fun, and through coaching these kids and teaching them the fundamentals, he kind of regains his love for the game. Gordon, that is. He kind of has a thing for Charlie Conway's mom, because, he sees Charlie kind of like a young him. And so it's a carefree kind of sports movie, but it's also a redemption story for Gordon because he, regains that. And the movie ends with Gordon going to play minor league hockey again, which is pretty cool. All right. And with the fourth round pick, I select Angels in the Outfield from 1994. I watched this movie so much growing up. If I would have had one VHS tape that ceased to work, it would have been this one. I watched it so much. I couldn't get enough of it. I'd probably watch it 3 or 4 times in one day. It's one of those movies I haven't watched in a really long time. I'm still looking to get it again. You look at this movie, and the cast of this movie at the time, several of them were nobodies, but now you look at them and you're like, oh my gosh, that guy was in Angels in the Outfield, which is just this ridiculous baseball movie. The cast, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is the main actor in this movie. He plays a foster kid in Los Angeles, California. Or it might be Anaheim at that time. I think it's Anaheim. I forget if it would have been Anaheim. So because it's the Anaheim Angels. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays this foster kid, and he lives in a foster home. with another kid. The kid's name is JP. I don't remember the actor's name. I don't think he went on to do anything. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt is this foster kid, and the movie starts. They tried to sneak in and watch an Angels game, and they get like kicked out, and so they go home, and his dad is there, and he's trying to talk to his dad. And he's like, when are we gonna be a family again? And the dad says, honestly, when the Angels win the pennant, and of course, a kid at that age is like, oh my gosh, like, all I gotta do is somehow figure out how the Angels can win the pennant and my family will be back together. Looking back at it now, it's kind of sad because you realize it's sarcasm. It's essentially him saying it's never gonna happen, and it is pretty sad, but it's not a focus of the movie. The rest of the movie is the kind of ridiculous scenario of like the Angels and the kid, and it's great. So basically, the kid, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, believe his name is Charlie, prays that for help for the Angels to win the pennant, and what is sent is Al, played by Christopher Lloyd, who is a head angel, and he is going to help the Angels win the pennant for Charlie. I'm just going to call him Joseph Gordon-Levitt because I can't remember if Charlie is his name. Oh, no, it's Roger. It is Roger. I apologize for that. Yeah, so not Charlie, Roger. So Christopher Lloyd, or Al, and by saying Al, he's really just wearing a umpire's hat, and it says AL on it for American League, but so he's like, you can just call me Al. So, he's helping Roger. I have no idea what that Big Bang was, if you guys heard that over the radio, or over my mic. So yeah, just ignore the noises in the background. So yeah, Roger, somehow Roger and JP actually get to go to an Angels game. I forget how they get tickets. And while they're like really far in the back, and at the end of the game, there's like a prize, and it's like, if you have the right ticket number, you can go on the field and meet the manager and get your picture taken with him. And of course he wins. Roger wins. And he goes down on the field and gets to meet Coach George Knox, played by Danny Glover. Danny Glover is awesome in this movie as George Knox. He's hilarious. He's stern. He's passionate. Yeah, it's a very funny character. Funny but mean, I should say. So Roger kind of tells him that, I saw this angel who is gonna, help your team. And he's like, you're ridiculous. Excuse me. And so basically through all this, they end up forming a friendship because the coach realizes, oh my gosh, this kid really is seeing something that's like helping my players. And so like they form the angel signal, which is basically just Roger standing up and like waving his arms like he's flying. And anytime the coach sees that, he goes up to him because they start having him sit close to the dugout. And actually by the end of the movie, he's in the dugout. So anytime he sees an angel with a player, he does his little sign, and the coach comes up and he's like, oh, who, and so he tells the coach who has an angel with them. And, he'll make adjustments based on it. Some of the times he's not too happy with them, like there's a situation where their best hitter's about to go up to bat, but their worst hitter has an angel with them, and he's like, oh, you gotta take Mitchell out and put, I can't remember, Hammerling is the other guy. He's like, I'm not taking out my best hitter for my worst hitter, and then he finally does it, and it works out, of course, because there's an angel. But, and I'm not going to spoil this one, yet it is a Disney movie, so you can kind of see where it's going. It is a fun movie. What I want to get to is some of the other actors in this movie. Tony Danza's in it. Obviously, Tony Danza hasn't done a lot in a long time, but Tony Danza plays the pitcher, one of the pitchers for the team. The two that I really want to talk about, because when you look back at it, this is absolutely ridiculous. There's two Oscar-winning actors in this movie. At that point, they were future Oscar-winning actors. The first one is Adrian Brody. Adrian Brody plays Hammerling, the worst hitter on the team. He, of course, would go on to win a Best Actor award at the Academy Awards for the pianist. And then Matthew McConaughey plays one of the outfielders. I want to say his last name is Williams. He makes a really big catch with the help of an angel. And it actually might have been the first catch that an angel helped with, if I remember correctly. But he, of course, went on to win just a year ago for Dallas Buyers Club. So, yeah, two Oscar winners in this little baseball movie by Disney called Angels in the Outfield. Alright, we're down to the final three. With the third round, I select Moneyball from 2011. I really enjoy this movie. I know there's a lot of people who are against the whole sabermetrics thing with, figuring out, basically using algorithms to figure out really good players for lower prices. But that's not really what I focus on with this movie. It is based on a true story. It's about a team. It's kind of a David and Goliath story. It's the Oakland A's who don't have a ton of money going up against teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox who have a ridiculous amount of money. Brad Pitt was nominated for an Oscar. He was the lead. He was Billy Beane, the general manager of the A's. Jonah Hill was nominated. He played Peter Brand, who is the assistant general manager. He's kind of the guy who came up with the whole sabermetrics thing. And just basically, once again, it's a movie, not a whole lot of the actual sport being played. It's a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's just really enjoyable. I really like it. And I mean, it is based on a true story, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything by saying they actually don't end up making it to the World Series. Once again, they get stopped. But they had the most consecutive wins. It was, I want to say, 21 or something like that. I don't remember offhand, but it's a really good movie. Some good acting from some of the other guys. Chris Pratt, who, of course, went on to be Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy, has a really good role in the movie as Jeff Hatterberg, who hits, the really big home run. And then Philip Seymour Hoffman. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. Philip Seymour Hoffman has a great role as head coach Art Howe. And I mean, he's very good in the movie. And then, so yeah, that's number 3, Moneyball. With the second round pick, I select Remember the Titans from 2000. Really good movie. Awesome, just Denzel Washington, great. I feel like the majority of people have seen this movie. It's a story of TCW high school football team. It's a school that they integrated. They combined a white school and a black school. They hate each other at first. They go on this camp thing. They get super bonded like a family. They come back to the real world. People are like, oh, what's this going on? But through the season, they kind of are like, this is okay. We can deal with this because our team is really good. And, there's a lot of big actors in this movie as well. You know, you got Ryan Gosling in the movie. You know, he plays Alan. Then, of course, Donald Faison, who plays one of my favorite TV show characters of all time, Turk, in Scrubs. Plays Petey. Oh man, I can't even... Ethan Suplee plays Louis Lastic. He, of course, was one of the bullies from Boy Meets World. He played Jason Lee's brother on My Name is Earl. Lots of people in that movie. I can't even think of the actor's name right now. He played Bertier. He played the player that got paralyzed. Amazing performance. I can't think of his name, and it really bothers me. But he goes on to play Opie in Sons of Anarchy, which is one of the coolest characters in that show. He's awesome. But yeah, Remember the Titans. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. It's really good. Features a young Hayden Panettiere, you know, before she did Heroes. So yeah, there's a lot of people in that one as well. All right, and before I get to my number one, I'm going to do a brief message from my sponsor. All right. Are those pesky papers affecting your party life? Are finals taking away from your field time? Well then, hop onto the interweb and take a gander at domyshitforme.net. All you need to do is take a short questionnaire, and one of the staff's semi-skilled writers will write up a paper based on your knowledge of the paper subject. If you are unhappy with the grade of your paper, too bad. Do it yourself next time. So next time you need a shortcut, visit domyshitforme.net. That sounds like a lovely website. All right. And then with my first round pick, I choose Miracle from 2004. Once again, Disney. So now that I kind of look back, Disney has, you know, kind of taken several spots on this list. Disney does pretty much everything amazing. Miracle is one of the most powerful movies I've ever watched in my life. You know, it follows the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team that, you know, they were more than underdogs. Like, they weren't even on the radar. You know, a bunch of college kids who had to go up against this ultimate machine that was the Russian hockey team, who hadn't lost in like eons. And Kurt Russell does an amazing job as Herb Brooks, the coach of the team. It's I'm losing words trying to describe how good this movie is. You know, it's a bunch of college kids. It really, you know, I kind of wish that our all-star or that our Olympic teams would go back to this, because I feel like college players appreciate it a little bit more. And you know, like I love in the movie when Kurt Russell calls out to a player to, you know, say their name and where they're from, or where their name and who they play for. And, you know, throughout the movie they're saying their name and where they played college. And then, of course, at the end of the movie, or, well, not the end of the movie, near the end of the movie, Mike Eruzione says USA. Well, he says the United States of America, and it's that big moment of, that's what we're here for. I love Kurt Russell's quote of, the name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the name on the back. You know, he does such a good job in the role. And, I mean, the whole cast does an amazing job. Like, it kind of like with Remember the Titans, you know, it's all these guys who have come from different teams, specifically two teams that hate each other. with Minnesota University of Minnesota and Boston University, and then they just become this big family, and they do something amazing together. But yeah, definitely check out Miracle. If you don't watch any other movie on this list, but you only watch Miracle, then I will feel better about myself. Obviously, Angels in the Outfield too. Like if you throw another one in there, like, I'm only gonna watch 2 off this list. Watch Angels in the Outfield if you can find it, because that movie is very good, and you get to see some good performances from actors before they kind of got big. I am gonna throw out a couple of honorable mentions, just because I had a list of 66 movies and I kind of cut it down to 10. So just the other, I'm gonna throw in 3 honorable mentions. Cool Runnings, hilarious movie, another movie based on a true story. John Candy is awesome in this role. He's not trying to be overly funny. He's just trying to be he's playing a character who's got sort of a dark past. Like, he's got a past he's not very happy with, and it's very good. 2 is Caddyshack. Caddyshack, hardcore comedy, really funny. 1980, Bill Murray, Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase. Check it out. If you haven't, it's so funny. And then number 3 is Slapshot. Slapshot is Paul Newman. It's a minor league hockey movie, 1977. I read something somewhere that he said it was his favorite movie that he did. It's very funny and kind of out there. And then just really briefly, I'm gonna kind of talk about what I did on the music box on the blog that this is gonna be kind of associated with. I had an original blog that was just the sports box, and I kind of got out of the habit of writing it once football season ended, because that's the main sport I follow. So inside the box, or the ITB, it's kind of spawned to have a blog keep going once football season ended. I was doing movie box in addition to sports box on here, and then I was like, well, let's do music box. I'd already kind of thought about doing it. I had a friend who was like, you definitely need to start talking about music more. And I was like, definitely, like, the fact that, you are saying this as well as me knowing I want to, it definitely means that I wanted to do it. So what I did on this one was just, I did the top 6 albums that I'm listening to currently. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, since I went into a lot of detail on some of those movies. So just number 6 right now, Florida Georgia Line, their album from 2014, Anything Goes. For a long time I was just like rock and classic rock, music, and more recently I'm getting into country music a lot more. I really like these guys. Their first album was pretty good. Their first album had This Is How We Roll on it. This song this album is very good. My favorite song off of the album is Smile, but I also like Dirt and Sippin' on Fire. Number 5, I've got Tonight Alive, The Other Side from 2013. Tonight Alive is the band, The Other Side is the album. They're from Australia, I believe Sydney, Australia. Female lead singer. She's got a great voice. My favorite song off of the album is Hell and Back, but I also like The Ocean, Don't Wish, and The Other Side. Really, you can't go wrong with the first half of the album. The first half is really good. The whole album is very good, but the first half of the album is like the really good part of the album. At number 4, Foo Fighters, Sonic Highways. Foo Fighters is my favorite band ever. Dave Grohl is awesome. If you haven't seen his Sound City documentary, check it out. It is awesome. There's a CD that goes along with it that I, of course, own. That's really good. He gets some awesome artists to collab on it. Now, I didn't see the Sonic Highways documentary that they were doing on HBO, because with this album they recorded there's only like 6 or 7 songs, and each song was recorded in a different state, like a different city. So like Chicago, Seattle, New York, Nashville. And I mean, it's such a cool concept, and they did a mini series documentary where they like did each city. So they essentially did a short documentary for each city. I haven't seen any of them. I really want to. As far as the album goes, it did take a little bit of time to grow on me. I was in a car for essentially 3 hours and listened to it about 3 or 4 times straight. And it's very good. My favorite song off the album is I Am a River. But I also like Congregation, which is the one he recorded in Nashville, and Zach Brown from the Zach Brown Band helped out on that song. And then Something from Nothing is also a very good song off that album. At number 3, I have the album Comfort Eagle from 2001 by the band Cake. These guys are just... they're out there. They kind of talk sing. They're very fun. They kind of have goofy lyrics. One of the songs off the album, which was Short Skirt, Long Jacket, was the theme song for the TV show Chuck. But yeah, they have a brass section, which is always fun. My favorite song off the album is Comfort Eagle, but I also like Meanwhile Rick James, Opera Singer, and Shadow Stabbing. And then number 2, I have Yellow Card's 2011 album When You're Through Thinking, Say Yes, but I have the acoustic version. There is a regular one, but I prefer the acoustic version. It sounds... they have a electric violin in the band, and the acoustic just sounds way cooler with the violin. But my favorite song off of the album is For You and Your Denial, but I also really like Soundtrack and With You Around, but the entire album is phenomenal. Like, you can listen to the whole thing and not find a bad song. Just briefly going back to Comfort Eagle by Cake, with the exception of maybe the last 2 songs, that album is really solid, and the whole thing can be listened to. And then number 1 is Camp from 2011 by Childish Gambino. I'm not really big on the rap or hip hop music scene, but Childish Gambino is very good. I really like his stuff. A really good friend of mine introduced me to Gambino just through, I think the first song she had me listen to was Heartbeat, and I'm like, okay, I can get behind this is really good. And then she had me listen to You See Me, Sunrise, Sober, a few other of his songs. I was really liking it, and I went and got one of his albums, and that was Camp, and I really like it. And so I would just say my favorite song off the album is Bonfire, and then I also like Sunrise, Heartbeat, and You See Me, and then so that is my top 6 albums I'm currently listening to. That is everything that I've got. I want to briefly talk about my guest box section on my blog. For those of you who don't understand or don't know, I kind of have it for if someone were to write a movie review. Like, I know Kingsman: The Secret Service just came out. It's a movie that I plan to go see. I haven't had a time to go see it yet. But if someone's seen it and they have wanted to write a review for it, and then they were like, oh man, this is really good, maybe, you could, if you wanted, you could send it to me, and I'd, look over it, and if I liked it, I'd put it on there. I wouldn't put it on there as me. I would put it on there and then say, this is a review featured by Joe somebody, and that's what I want with it. Reviews are just thoughts on things. I haven't gotten anything yet. So it's getting to the point where I'm probably gonna I'll probably throw it up there one or two more times, and then I'll get rid of it if I don't get anything. It was just a concept that I thought might be cool, but it's not getting any traction. So we're probably gonna I'm the only one doing this. I'm probably just gonna take it out of there in the next week or so. But yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at acbach, BACH27. I'm not on there a whole lot, but it's something I want to start using a little bit more. And then for next week, I'm going to do a James Bond special. Obviously they've started working on James Bond 24 or Spectre. So I'm going to do my top 10 favorite James Bond films, and I'm going to also do my top 10 James Bond theme songs. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm currently working on it right now. Pretty much have the movie list locked up. Theme song, not so much. I know which one is my least favorite, but other than that, I really don't know. And so before I go, just to remind you one more time about our sponsor, which is domyshitforme.net. If you need help writing a paper, well, not need help. If you need someone to write a paper for you, they'll do it. No guarantee it's going to be a good paper. So yeah, domyshitforme.net. Thank you for sponsoring this first ever, podcast of Inside the Box with Adam Bach. I'm Adam Bach, and thank you for listening.